Okay, so I had a comment to one of my on one of my videos that I wanted to know how to adjust the back door mechanism, because you have to slam that back door, the tailgate, or the back hatch, whatever you want to call it, to get the interior light to go off. Now I've had a look, and this is not adjustable, so you can't loosen the bolts and adjust this. And the mount that's on the bottom of the tailgate in the framework just bolts down as well. It's also non-adjustable. So the problem that occurs must be happening inside here. And the thing is, this is it looks non-serviceable. So I'm going to do what I do best. I'm going to pull this apart. I'm going to grind these off, punch those pins through. I already had a look to make sure that if I do that, there's going to be clearance. Now, if this has got a bolt head on the other side here, that's obviously going to be taller than what's there. I might have to grind them a bit further down. This side here doesn't matter. I can have them sticking up this far if I want to, and that's not going to be a problem because there's a hole in the tailgate that will slide through. So I'll get this apart. I'll grind those off, punch those pins through. I'll pull this out, and I'll have a look at the switch on the inside to see if that's serviceable, and go from there. Okay, so I've pushed the pins out. Now we'll open this together. I don't know what to expect here. I'll take this out, I guess. It looks loose enough. Okay, so that's the switch there. I'll just see how that functions. So it's that there that pushes the switch. Let's just see if I can take this out. Doesn't look like a good idea to do that. It's all spring loaded in there. Okay, I don't want to go messing this up. I have another one I can use if something went terribly wrong, but I can see that the pins through here do hold things in place as well with the springs. So I'm just going to put a bolt in there for now, just to hold that all in place there. I'll get another bolt for that side. That'll do. Okay, just to hold all that in place there. So, okay, so I've taken it further apart. Try and get some of that mess out of the way so you can see clearly. So there are all the parts of this. I've taken it completely apart. So this one here is spring loaded into there. And what happens is when this here, you can see that little arm there, comes around, it pushes against the switch. This guy here. So that goes in there, like that. When this comes around, this basically closes all the way until it gets to push a little bit. I don't know if you can see in there. I hope so. But the problem is, for that switch to work, so it's like it's closed That's its maximum closing distance there. So it's just only just touching that switch when it gets to that point. So there's not really a lot happening there. So what I'm going to do is, I found the rivet that has a similar size stem on it. So I'm going to knock this rivet out, cut it the size, and put a sleeve over that there. And I just need to make sure that when it goes back on, the sleeve's not going to come off. So it's like it used to have one. That rivet fits perfect in there. So what I'm going to do is, because this is one of those really old style rivets, it's closed off the ends, I'm going to have to cut the ends here, get that stem out, and see how well I can use that rivet to put a sleeve over that to give it that extra space it needs to fix the problem. That should do the trick beautifully. Need to be trimmed down a little bit. So it needs to be made a little bit smaller. Basically the same height as that pin there is the height that I've got to target to make that the sleeve go over the top. Okay, so we've got this pretty much sorted now. What I've done is I've rounded the ends. That's this side not so much, but this part here, just so it sits into there a bit better down the bottom there. And now when this works, I have a problem with getting past part of the switch there. Now it will go past it, but this is the part that it's not wanting to get past. And all that is a clip that holds that bar in place. So I'm going to just push that down. I'm going to squeeze it tight because it doesn't need to be moved that far out of the way. Now put that on. Now that problem's gone. So now, with that extra bit of spacing there, I should be able to put this switch back together. I have a little concern right now of that sliding off. So what I'm going to do, so stop it from turning. I'll squeeze one side, just to make it a bit tighter. And now I'll get that pushed on. Alright, it is a tight fit. I'm going to get that on one way or another, and then we'll continue putting the switch back together. Okay, so I've got that on. You can see that's a fair way down now. And it's nice and tight, so that's not going to slide off. So it's time to put this switch back together. Well, I guess I need to find a couple of long bolts first. I haven't done that. So I'll find a couple of long bolts that will go through, a couple of nuts on it, so I can set all this into place and I'll put it back together. If this is a fail, I have another one that I can replace it with. I think I said that at the beginning of the clip. If not, I'm saying it now. Either way, I'm going to upload this, so show you what not to do if it doesn't work. So that's got to go that way, that pushes that way, so it's going to push against that arm, so I need to make sure that's up like that when putting it back in. Now because it's all spring loaded, I've got to try and hold it tight with my fingers as I push it on. Okay, that wasn't too difficult. Yeah. Ah, yes, son of a...
Were you filming that?
I'm still filming, yeah. I didn't want this spring to give away, so I did. Now I've got a different problem. You know, my fault. When I was trying to test it by hands, I didn't put these bolts through, and that's why it wasn't lining up. I realised that when I was doing it, but it was already too late because I'd already taken it out of here when I realised I should have put the bolts through to bring it all into line. And don't lose it. If you pull this apart, make sure you don't let this one spring out. There we go. So you can't make them super tight. Well, that will release when when it's back on. Okay. It's possible that spring that I've undone has possibly one more extra wind. Why that's being like that, but we're gonna have to leave it like that because there's no way possible that I could wind that twice around. It was hard enough with just the one wind. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just get another nut onto these to lock them in and leave it like that. I'll put it on the van and see how she goes. Okay, just trying to get this back on, and it looks like I was wrong about these bolts. They don't have the clearance through that hole that I was expecting them to have. So it obviously sits like that. Now I could take those top bolts off. I'll try it. What I'll do is I'll take the top bolts off, grind the top of the nut off, and then just put a bit of a spot weld on top to make that a bit shorter. And or I could just take the bolts completely out, put the original studs back in, and tack weld onto the plate, which might be an idea as well. I'll try the bolt first. I don't like the idea of tacking onto the plate with the heat and then the ABS here getting hot and melting and just make a mess of the whole thing. So I'll try the nut first. Okay, so this is the finished product. Does the job though. So I've tack welded it. I went against my better judgment and tack welded it on the back and front so they don't move, because I had to chop that top bolt off so I couldn't lock it. Now another way would have been just to chop that thread off and use a bit of Loctite to put that on, and I could have saved myself welding there, but I'm actually being a little bit lazy. I've got the welder here and I have to go half an hour down the road to get the Loctite. So it still works, but doesn't swing back when you open it. Got to do it, but that should be okay because you're actually pulling against the gate as you're opening it, so that shouldn't be too much of a drama. I'll look online as well and see if I can find how much they are for, to buy them brand new, because the better idea would be to replace it, not repair it. But if you want to give repairing it a go, this video should give you some idea of what's involved and what you're going to have to do. So we'll take this over to the van, put it in. Okay, that's it back on. And you can see there's just enough room in there for just the one nut, the length there, and that goes on nice. It's only on finger tight at the moment, so I haven't obviously wired it up yet. There's also a boot that goes on that. I'm going to try and put the boot on, see if it'll squish in and still be usable. If not, then I'll just have to throw this part out. Well, it worked out perfectly fine. I was a bit iffy about it, but shut the door, and that's no good to see in there, is it? You can see that the interior light's not on. Beautiful. No shaking. That's easy. Nice. Okay, so other ways to go about this, if you don't want to go for all of that, I'd simply just put a switch on the outside here, onto this line here. So when you open a tailgate, you can just manually flick it on and flick it off when you're closing the gate. That's easy enough fix. There's a real simple way to, a real simple solution. Buy a new one if you can't. If you don't have a welder, you want to do the same idea, use Loctite. If you're able to, I don't think so, but if you're able to, probably the best bet would be to put a plate here. Or I don't know if there's, I'm not going to do it, so I don't really know anywhere else to look. I mean, possibly here, if you wanted to run the line, so you just follow these two wires here, the color code here, to here, run your own, put a switch here like a door, and once you just, once you put a switch in there, it'll be easy serviceable, easy to control yourself. Okay, so now I need to put all this back together, put the dressings back on, put the dressings on that I bring over, and yeah, we can start cleaning her up. And this whole job took me probably about 1 hour to do it, but I just started late in the day yesterday, so I had to finish off last night with just repairing this, and then a quick 10 minutes this morning just making this video showing you, just putting it all back in. Okay, well, I hope that helps someone. Till next time, guys. Cheers.
Okay, a bit of an added bonus here. If you've watched it, the whole clip, you went this far, thank you very much for watching. Okay, so I just wanted to give a bit of advice. If I'd known this before starting, it would have been a much easier job, but you don't learn by just looking at it. So when you pull it apart and you take that first plate off the top and you have access to this switch here, in here, and that pin there that's sticking up, do what I did with the rivet, cut it to size. It can't be longer than this pin here, so you've got to cut it down to size and make sure that it's no longer than that there, that it can slide down easy. You can either pinch it with your pliers like I did to force it on. If I did this again, I'd probably use JB Weld the second time around to put it on the pin. Preparation would be good advice. Make sure you got everything you need before doing the job. My job was winging it because I didn't know what I was in for, didn't know what I had to get. So get yourself a rivet like I did. Make the little sleeve to go on there. Bend this pin here. And I would go ahead and order M6 size bolts like this or like this. So it'd make the job much easier. You could put a bit of Loctite on that, a thread locker. So when you screwed it all in, it'll be all nice and tight again and serviceable for if you ever wanted to pull it apart again. Instead of doing what I did with nut and bolt and tack welding, this would be a much better option. I kind of like this idea too, that you'd put that right through the end, tighten it up, and that just automatically squeezes it all together and makes your job a lot easier. So this would be, it's a really simple repair. Instead of taking you an hour or maybe an hour and a half, it took me an hour to do this repair. It could take 15 minutes to do this repair. The longest part would be getting the mechanism out of the van and pushing those pins out to start off with. Putting it all back together is cinch. So once again, thanks for watching, guys, and I'll catch you next time. Cheers.